Hello, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. The cheap, easy spool knitters are made and ready to knit on. So let's knit on them and see how it goes. Here is my homemade Knitting Nancy, Knitting Spool, Knitting Jenny, Knitting Pal, whatever you want to call it. And I still have my tools from making it sitting all over the table. So you can take a look at them and then consult my other videos so you can make yourself one. This video is on knitting on one. There's actually more than one way, but I find the easiest way to cast on is to make a wrap around each one of the pegs. See how they're looped? Now we're going to go all the way around doing that again. 2, 3, 4, or however many that there are. Then knit the lower loop over the upper loop. You can see that it's important not to make your wraps really tight, because if you did, it would be very hard to lift the lower one over the upper one. And new knitters almost always do want to make them too tight, which will be hard on the yarn, hard on the loom, and hard on the knitter. So try to avoid that. Now, future stitches are all made the same way. Wrap, lift over. That technique's working better. Wrap. I was trying to slide my tool down there, which is the front of the cotter pin, and it can be useful, but going in beside it is actually working better. So depending on what you use for your pegs when you make your looms, you'll need to insert your tool wherever it works best for that kind of peg. A nail is the traditional peg. I like cotter pins a little bit better, though they are a little bit more expensive, because they add a little bit more dimension and the option of running your tool down this front groove, which can be nice. And the fact that they have this rounded top makes it a little bit easier to knit over, and yet the stitches don't tend to fall off if you do that, because we do have that little bulb at the top. Now, what can you do with all of this long I-cord? That's what it's called, I-cord, which is short for idiot cord. Presumably only an idiot would want to spend all day doing it, or you will become an idiot if you spend all day doing it. And I take issue with both of those. I'm not an idiot, and I enjoy it. So it's just a silly word. But anyway, what can you do with all this I-cord? When I was a little girl, what we did with it was turn it into doll rugs by coiling it and making an ever-enlarging coil. We would make a rag rug looking rug, sewing the edges of the coil together. I think modern little girls enjoy friendship bracelets and hair doodads more than they use dollhouse rugs. But you can also make coasters in the same way that we made the dollhouse rugs. And any number of things, anything that you want to be flat or coiled, or anything that can coil up the side of something. For example, if you took an empty tin can and glued this to the outside, coiling up, wrapping with your I-cord, you could cover it. There's the cord developing. I will knit another few rows off camera and then join you, and you'll see how it looks. Still knitting away on my homemade Knitting Nancy, and I just wanted to show you an additional technique. I wrapped all 4 pegs this time, and now I can knit over all 4. It's a little bit more advanced technique. Oops, that's my working yarn. But it works well for the girls as they get more comfortable with the skill, and it goes a little bit faster. It's really the same thing as doing it one at a time. The only difference is you have to anchor the last stitch first. Now they won't unravel. That's gotten in the way. Now let's have a look. That whole thing took me maybe 10 minutes. Obviously, a little girl's first try is going to take her longer, but you can see it's possible to get results and have a good time pretty quickly on a homemade French knitter. I've got enough here for a bracelet now. Let's bind off. There are two ways, one of which involves another yarn needle. So I'm going to use what I think is the easier way. I'm going to take the stitch that has the working yarn attached and move it to the next peg. I'm going to wrap that peg, loosely of course, and knit both of the existing stitches over the new wrap. Then move that one to the next peg. Do the same thing. One over, two over. If you can get a hold of them both at once, that's totally fine. I couldn't that time. Move it over to the next. This one doesn't want to behave, but it does not know who it is fooling with. Wrap. Let's see if I can grab them both at once. Not very well. Okay. Now I should be able to pull this one all the way through because that's the working yarn tail, and I'm bound off. And now we can tie this around somebody's wrist in a nice little bow, or finish it with beads, or whatever you want to do.